In today's video, I'm going to talk about something that I believe is still existing today, but in a completely sort of different manner, just being hiding in plain sight and just still evolving, basically. And this thing that I'm going to be talking about today is called MK Ultra. Now, before I get into this video, I'll go through all the rubbish that I go through at the beginning of all these videos. So if you sort of like this content, if you like to watch creepy art being drawn that correlates with the particular thing that I am talking about, yeah, like, subscribe, share this to all your friends, get my channel to blow up because I love doing this. I love being as creepy as possible, and yeah, that would mean a lot to me if this was to be my full-time job. So it'd be wonderful. Anyway, let's move on to the video that I'm going to be talking about today, and let's touch base on MK Ultra. Now, MK Ultra was a top secret mind control experiment that started in 1953 and ended in 1973, and it was ran by the CIA in America and Canada by Sidney Gottlieb. They would gather up thousands of people and expose them to LSD and other drugs such as magic mushrooms, methamphetamine, ecstasy, heroin, and that's just to name a few, for mind control, mental torture, data gathering, and getting people to perform assassinations without any memory during or afterwards. One part of these experiments were done to try to use the mind control on the enemies during the Cold War. The CIA wanted to find out if these drugs could weaken, brainwash people so they could interrogate and give up information needed via manipulation. They were performing these experiments in prisons, on prisoners, also brothels. They were doing the experiments on the prostitutes, and then the prostitutes were bringing back unsuspecting men to be experimented on as well. Universities were a front for this experiment, as well as pharmaceutical companies and hospitals. They were even giving kids LSD in Kool-Aid to see what happened to them. That is ridiculous. Now, a lot of people and families were compensated after lawsuits started flowing because people that underwent these experiments were never the same again. The government really proved to everyone that they don't give a second thought about doing horrible acts to human beings, and especially their own people. Most of the records of this 20-year experiment were destroyed by order of the CIA director, Richard Helms. But the documents that were able to be salvaged were studied, and there was very, very little. MK Ultra ended up being a complete failure, and not enough evidence was found to make it certain that these drugs were able to control the minds of humans. They just ended up ruining people's lives, and the LSD was way too unpredictable to find out whether or not, these poor people were just going, crazy on this stuff. And yeah, if anyone knows of someone who has done LSD, you will know that it's not something that you can predict from person to person what is going to happen. People suffered after effects such as permanent anxiety and depression, incontinence, amnesia, forgetting how to talk, forgetting family and thinking that their own parents were the interrogators, paranoia, social issues, psychosis, and just flat out brain damage. The project ended in 1973 and was declassified in 2001. What was left of it anyway, which was not much, as I've said. Due to most of the files being destroyed, it was hard to know how many deaths followed this experiment, and the data on the whole thing may never be known and no justice can be served to the thousands of suspected people that suffered under the hands of the CIA. However, there was several known deaths, the most famous one being a biochemist and biological weapons researcher, Frank Olson, who was given LSD without his knowledge or consent in November 1953 as part of the CIA experiment, and he later died via suicide a week later by jumping out the window from a 13th floor after a psychotic episode. It was later known that Frank was informed 20 minutes after he had ingested the drug. The problem was that Frank already had a history of suicidal tendencies, so the drug was only going to exacerbate that. A few days before his death, he had quit his job. Frank's body was exhumed in 1994 and was found to have had blows to his head that happened before he had suspectedly launched himself out the window from the 13th floor, which means that he was unconscious before he got out the window. So he couldn't have done it himself. So it may not have been suicide after all. Maybe he knew too much was one of the conspiracies about this particular incident. He knew too much about the position and the sector that he was working in. And apparently he may have been potentially going to go public with the experiment. So kind of looks like the CIA, let's say, murdered him, maybe, allegedly. I mean, it's a bit sus. It's looking that way. Just imagine having your mind broken, your soul fractured, and split into two personalities to be controlled and brainwashed for a fucking dead-end experiment. Just makes my blood boil that they could do this to people. And what I have learned in the last couple of years is nothing's off the table when it comes to this sort of stuff in the government and what all these organisations will do to people with no conscience, no empathy whatsoever. Now it's conspiracy time. Let's delve into a few of the conspiracies that I have found out about the MK Ultra and what people sort of think about it in today's society, as well as, you know, past conspiracies about MK Ultra. So the first one is the MK Ultra program may not have been shut down, but it's just evolved. And that's what I said at the beginning of this video. I personally think that it's still happening today. So I still think that there is branches off of MK Ultra, and yeah, all you have to do is look around. Look at the media, what they're doing to people, yeah, with their mind-altering ways of trying to brainwash people to think like them. The man that killed Robert F. Kennedy, Sirhan, was under the experiment, hence the reason why he said he felt like he was being controlled and told to do it from within his own mind. And he has no recollection of the event and him shooting Robert F. Kennedy. So yeah, if it's true what they said about the experiment, then yeah, that's a pretty good sign. If he did shoot him, yeah, he was under the experiment and he has no idea he was brainwashed. So he may have been an MK Ultra yeah, guinea pig. COVID-19 is one of the branches off of MK Ultra to try and control people with a vaccine that has a tiny little chip in it that gets injected into your skin. They this is I personally sort of don't believe this one, but they reckon that there is a nano chip that is in each vial and it's being injected into each person, and it is a source of mind control because it's metal and it's being controlled by the 5G frequency, which no, sorry, don't believe that one. They also reckon that this chip could be activated and make someone kill on command, basically. Similar mind controlling projects are still active today that branch off from the 1950s experiment, such as a certain or most celebrities have had a chip installed in their brain that can be turned on and off at any time. Perfect example of this is an interview, I think it was on a red carpet with Cardi B, and she was acting like she was spaced out, like she's like laughing and smiling and doing some sort of really weird stuff, and then all of a sudden she just like snaps back and then starts acting normal, and starts interacting with the other woman who is sort of on the red carpet with her in walking around with a microphone. It's just like she snapped and like a switch was turned on to sort of bring her back and be controlled by whoever manages her, something like that. That's an interesting sort of thing. It's not the first time that she's been spotted sort of acting really weird behavior like that as well. So yeah, interesting. Now, apparently this has happened a lot to Shaquille O'Neal as well. He was on a panel and he was basically like he was frozen, just staring, while the other presenters on the panel were just chatting away. This one's really creepy. Like, it's kind of like, yeah, he's had a malfunction, like he's a robot, and then he just sort of snaps out of it. It's very interesting footage as well to watch. Another one is Katy Perry. She was on stage and just collapses, like something was just turned off, a switch. It's like she was malfunctioning and then just was switched off and then was carted off stage. You know, this one could mean anything because, you know, she could have been on drugs or anything like that. You just don't know with celebrities. But yeah, this one's like a bit more explainable, other than the Cardi B and the Shaquille O'Neal one, which is the Shaquille O'Neal one is very, very weird. And yeah, that one's probably the weirdest one I've seen. The mass shootings across the world were carried out by people that were under the influence of MK Ultra experiments. Don't know, because there's a lot of nutters out there, you know. MK Ultra is still carried on by the Illuminati to this day. And the final conspiracy that I'm going to talk about is the Jonestown mass cult suicide. They reckon that this particular cult was a mass testing site for MK Ultra, which was set up by the cult, the People's Temple. So my thoughts on some of the conspiracies, no. I think that, yeah, I do believe that MK Ultra is still functioning today, just under different names, different things, different ways. It's evolved, but potentially the Robert F. Kennedy assassination, maybe that's a possibility. Celebrities, maybe, don't know really about that one. But the mass shootings, I don't really know. I think, you know, a lot of this can be explained without sort of going into the MK Ultra realm. Like I said, there is a lot of, you know, mentally unstable people out there that like killing. So it's going to happen. It's going to happen eventually, whether there's an experiment, you know, in the mix or not. So what is your thoughts on this particular theory and this particular experiment on MK Ultra? Do you have any extra additional information to share about this? Let me know in the description below, because this is what I found, and if there's anything else out there, let me know, because I love learning about this sort of stuff and how shit and fucked up our history is. The illustration that I have done today for this particular topic is a human being controlled, having a thing put on their head to shock them, you know, try to do what they do in experiments to, you know, control someone with, there's a big tube going in her throat, you know, what's that pumping into her? You know, it could be anything. All these wires that she's hooked up to, and she's sitting on a chair. Well, she's not really sitting on a chair, because I've made it so she's been cut off at the rib cage, and she's sort of just sitting there, just hacked and mutilated, and I sort of wanted to represent the complete just, you know, bullshit that these poor people went through by really making it gruesome, and like part of them has been destroyed, and I portrayed that in the fact that she's been cut off, and she's had her chest cut open, and I've just made it disturbing to represent this particular topic. So but anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video, you enjoyed the art and the information that I have talked about today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!